العالمين والصلاة والسلام على مقام النبي الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. First of all, I would like to thank you for your patience, and I would like to apologize for the delay. Normally on Saturdays, I teach my students student activity. So I have class from 10 a.m. 7 p.m. 7 a.m. San Francisco time, 10 a.m. East Coast time. So I have class from 10 to 12. So I finished the teaching class, made wudu, and then headed out from BWI. And so we were driving from 12:25 to right now straight. So it's so sorry for the delay. Just didn't have much of a break in between. Alhamdulillah. So I'd like to thank you all for your interest in this topic, mashallah, and thank you all for attending. As teachers, as speakers, we feed off the audience. So alhamdulillah, if there's a group of dedicated listeners and audience members, alhamdulillah, this motivates the speaker as well. So mashallah, this topic is a very fascinating topic. As we know, there's a lot of interest in this. We can watch our friends on a daily basis, checking the latest price of Bitcoin, checking the price of stocks, watching the announcements regarding Ukraine, the impact on oil prices, food prices, etc., etc. We're all a little bit tense, but we're all closely following the happenings and occurrences in the world. And also watching the impact on our stocks, on our investments, etc. And another concern that's coming up as well for people all over the world and Muslims as well, inflation. So you guys, this is generally up till the year 2018, 2019, inflation was generally very low. So for everyone to understand here, traditionally as Muslims and Desis, we like cash, right? We don't even like to keep money in the bank, right? We like to keep our cash at home. And if we have our life savings, we as Muslims are not allowed to invest in interest, right? So even in the bank account, I have my when I walk into the teller, the person at the ATM says, you know what? You need to think about putting your money in interest. Why don't you put it in a checking account? Why do you have all this money in your savings in your checking account? Why don't you put it in the savings account? We have all these investment options for you. But a lot of us, if we have any extra cash lying around, we'll just keep it in the bank and we'll just keep the dollars there. So does everyone understand how inflation works? Right? Inflation means if I have $100 and inflation is 8%, it means, right, in 1 year, my $100, right, $108 will buy what $100 used to buy. You understand that? So inflation means the value, I can hold on to this $100. What I can buy with this $100 right today in 2022 is going to be much different from what you can buy 2023 or 2024. Does anyone here remember when gas used to be $1 a gallon? Most of you guys remember, mashallah. But when I was going to college, when I was driving to university every day, right? Gas, I remember I was paying 99 cents a gallon. It was 1996, 1997. 69 cents. So I haven't seen that before, but you're even before me, but I've seen 99. I haven't seen 69. And I think all of us can, if we track the prices of certain things, milk, a loaf of bread, right? We can watch the progression in the last 20 or 30 years. You could buy a scoop of ice cream for 25 cents at that time as well. Right? You could buy a scoop of ice cream for 29 cents, 25 cents. Now, why we should also be more concerned, the rate of inflation up till 2021, 2020 was pretty low. Now it's really spiked up. I think it's the highest it's been for the last maybe even 30 years. It's the highest it's been. So it means if we keep all our money in cash in dollars, it means, right, that the value of that dollar is going to keep going down. Right? It's if you just keep your $100 under your bed, right? A lot of people like to hide their money under the bed or under the mattress. If you keep your $100 there, right, next year it's going to be worth less. Next year it's going to be worth less. So it means you have to, or we have to think about making up that cost of inflation or making up that rate of inflation. So for example, if we keep our $100 in another form of investment, for example, gold. In fact, I think from the last time I came here till today, gold is spiked. Those that are following it. And cryptocurrency, that's a whole other story. But gold at least, gold has been spiking recently because of the war, because of what's going on. So at the very least, my respected brothers and sisters and listeners, we as Muslims need to start thinking about investments, right? And start thinking about also diversifying and looking for the different options that are out there. And taking advantage of these other investments because your $100 is not going to grow. Right? You keep your $100 in cash, right? It's not going to lie, it's not going to magically grow. Yes, if you invest it in certain reliable stocks, if you invest it, for example, in gold, if you invest it in real estate, right? There's opportunities for growth, right? But then putting the $100 under your mattress, it's not going to grow. It's not going to magically grow. But these other forms of investments, there are opportunities for you to increase your money in the long term and also reach that point where, inshallah, we can take care, we can retire, we can look after our relatives and our heirs, and also make arrangements for them. So the Prophet Muhammad is reported to have said, وَأَن تَذَرُوا عَادَتَكَ أَغْنِيَاءَ خَيْرٌ مِنْ أَن تَذَرَهُمْ عَالَةً فُقَرَاءَ يَتَكَفَّفُ النَّاسِ. أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Approximate meaning of the hadith. So this is one objective in Islam, that we think about our heirs and our surviving relatives. Allah forbid, if we leave this world, will our heirs and our relatives, will they be poor? Will they be beggars? Will they be forced to go out and make their own financial arrangements? Or have we left a significant amount of money for them where inshallah they can be financially independent as well? Right? It doesn't mean we have to leave behind billions of dollars, but again, it's something to think about. Right? And one of the ways to do that, again, is we'll be investing. Also retiring is better. If a person reaches the age of maybe even 60, 70, 80, I think comes a time a person, they can't do what they used to do. Right? They working 12-hour days is going to be difficult for them. And there's going to be a time a person wants to free themselves up for worship, free themselves up for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Very, very interesting. Imam Nawawi mentioned this in Riyadh al-Salihin. So maybe this will change our perspective on retirement as a whole. So Imam Nawawi mentions the people of Madinah al-Munawwarah. This was their practice throughout the generations. When a person reached the age of 40 in Madinah al-Munawwarah, they would completely give up this world. And they would dedicate themselves to worship and getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it wasn't only the scholars or the ulama, it was the general practice of the people of Medina. It's kind of freeing themselves up for worship, getting ready for death, and dedicating themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, that might not be practical for all of us, but again, it's something to think about. In fact, I've seen in the last few years, there's been a trend of people retiring early. Even in sports, if you guys follow sports as well, even in other fields. Last March, so right now we're in March. Exactly last March, I was in Costa Rica. And I in Costa Rica, there was a lot of individuals that retired there from America. I met these maybe 35-year-olds, 37-year-olds. They had purchased property in Costa Rica. It's cheaper to live there. And their philosophy was either we work from here or we retire on what we have. Right? It's cheaper to live in Costa Rica than America. So that was the mindset. And working till the age of 70 or 80, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not practical. It is difficult. So why I share this with you? So why do I mention all of this? This all goes back to, this is all tied in with investing. And it's all tied in with saving and preparing for the future, preparing for our children's future, and preparing for our own future. And the people who made the right investments. Okay, let me ask a quick open question to you guys. How many individuals do you guys know who capitalized off of Bitcoin and who are retired right now? I know a few. So they bought Bitcoin at 3,000. They cashed out. Mashallah, they're relaxing right now. Mashallah, they can retire. They can enjoy life. Right? Buy Bitcoin at 3,000, sell at 50, right? And mashallah, you're ready. So, okay, Bitcoin is not an investment for everyone, but again, I'm going to just give you examples. And just give you examples of what we refer to as smart investment decisions, or also wise investment decisions. In the same way, individuals who invested in some of these stocks, year 2005, 2010, they rode on Tesla, they rode on Amazon, they rode on some of these other trends. Mashallah, they're also, mashallah, doing well. They can retire right now if they want to. And so other examples to think about. So the next point to discuss would be, and this might be the $1 million question literally, how could we as Muslims take advantage of the various investment options out there? So, mashallah, Muslims in DMV are doing well, mashallah. Many of us have good jobs, governmental jobs, etc. And we might have savings as well. And let's say we might have $20,000 in the bank as savings. Or let's say we have $100,000 in the bank as savings. So the question is, these investment opportunities are around us. But as we know, as Muslims, there's certain restrictions on us. We can't just go and invest in whatever we want. We can't go invest in bonds. We can't invest in certain types of investments. So how can we take advantage of the halal investments that are out there? And how can we find out what is halal? That's the next question. And so all these new trends that are coming up. Stock market is there. It's been around for some time. Cryptocurrency is a new fad. Right? People are going into crypto. And crypto is also old. NFTs is a new thing, you guys. Right? The young people, that's all they're talking about, NFTs. And the NFTs are also now getting old. Now people want to talk about the metaverse. So these new trends and phenomenon are now presenting themselves. And the question is, what can we as Muslims do? And how can we take advantage of these trends? How can we make some halal money from them? And how can we prepare for our future? Really, that's the question. So that's why this topic is so important. That's why, mashallah, there's so much interest in it. So inshallah, we can continue, inshallah, as long as there's interest. And inshallah, we'll keep the lecture program maybe another 30 minutes, 45 minutes. But I want to make this interactive. Right? So one is me speaking for another 45 minutes. One is having a conversation, inshallah, and having an interactive discussion. And perhaps some of you are more interested in crypto. Some of you are more interested in stock market. Some of you are more interested in other options. So it depends. It depends on you as the audience, and it depends on what fields you're interested in. So inshallah, what I will do, because the stock market is perhaps the most accessible and the easiest, and arguably the one of the most stable forms of investment, at least compared to crypto. So inshallah, I'll cover the stock market in detail. I'll briefly cover crypto as well. And inshallah, I'll give you guys some references for the remaining topics. So inshallah, NFTs, metaverse, crypto, inshallah, I'll give you some references, and I'll give you some follow-up reading as well. And then inshallah, in between, feel free to ask me questions. Inshallah, we can talk more about other forms of investment as well. So inshallah, any questions from what I've said so far, inshallah? And any preferences on what you want to hear about, inshallah?
Also for mutual funds.
Okay, so inshallah, we will cover that as well, inshallah. Part of stock market, inshallah, we will discuss it. And really 401k would be related to that as well. And any questions so far, inshallah?
Yeah, so with regards to the mutual funds, the major confusion is whether, because mutual funds is a bunch of companies, some will be they are non-halal, others will be halal. So that's why one of my confusion.
Yes.
Selecting.
Inshallah, so we'll cover that. Okay, so let if you guys don't mind me, this is just so I understand. How many of you have money invested in stock market? Just give me an idea. So a good amount. Okay, how many of you have money invested in cryptocurrency? Okay, how many of you have money invested in NFTs? Okay, interesting. Okay, so I'm just getting an idea. So first, let's inshallah discuss the stock market. And as a brother, I had a question about mutual funds. So there's when we examine the stock market, one is examining one stock at a time, which is a much easier way of looking at it. Really, mutual funds and 401ks is a combination of stocks. Right? So we will first analyze looking at a stock individually, and then inshallah we can apply that to larger portfolios or groups of stocks. So the first issue with the stock market is to understand that the majority of, or almost every single company or LLC that operates in America does not necessarily follow the Islamic rules. So this is right off the bat, this is a challenge that we face. So if a large company has $50 billion excess cash, what are they going to do with it? As Muslims, right, we know you can't put your money in a fixed return in an interest account. Non-Muslim companies, they don't have the same laws or rules or religious beliefs as us. Right? Just like Apple, they're going to put in into interest-bearing accounts. And so every single company on the stock market will have some haram income. It's just a situation we have to accept. We don't run the system. We don't call the shots. It's not our stock market. It's not our company. So this is a challenge that we have to face. And it's that system will be imperfect. And from a halal perspective, we're going to face some challenges. Right? Whether we like it or not, we're definitely going to face some challenges. And now looking at this imperfect system, the senior scholars came up with the criteria. And so there's a Mufti Usmani, who's one of the world experts in Islamic finance, and he's also one of the board members for an organization called AOFI. So AAOIFI. This organization sets standards for Islamic finance in the world, and it is the gold standard. And they are the most reputable, most renowned, and the most respected Islamic finance organization in the world, AOFI. Mufti Usmani is on the board, and there's some other senior scholars as well. So these are the 5 criteria which they have outlined for a stock to be halal. Right? So I'm sharing with you their criteria. I didn't come up with the criteria myself. Right? So if you have any questions, and to be fair, the criteria that they have set is not directly derived from the Quran. It's an estimation, and it's a judgment on their part. Right? So just giving you that disclaimer. So the 5 requirements for a stock to be halal. Number 1, the majority of the business or the primary business of the company of the stock company has to be halal. So right off the bat, casinos, for example, will be taken out. Music companies will be taken out, etc. Right there are other examples as well. For example, interest-based companies, etc. Loan companies will also be taken out as well. So this is the first requirement. The main business of the company should be halal. So for if a company is only selling software, for example, that'll meet the requirement. If the company is only selling music, that will not meet the requirement. So that's number one, primary business. Okay. Number two, this is a follow-up to that. As we know, most of these companies have an element of haram income or have a percentage of haram income. If you look at the income statement, right, they're making money from different things. Ya Allah. Why would Tesla go and start selling alcohol, you guys? I don't know. But they've decided to do so. Okay, they've decided to do so. And as I mentioned, interest income, almost every company will have a percentage of interest income. So if we say that every single stock company in America or LLC in America is haram because they have some percentage of haram income, right? We're all SOL. You guys know SOL? We're all SOL. Right? We're no stock investment in America would be haram. So now the scholars had to come up with the cutoff, or they had to be a little bit flexible. So the AOFI standard for percentage of haram income. Percentage of haram income is less than 5%. This is the criteria, less than 5%. So how can you calculate this? Look at the income statement. Right? What percentage of Tesla comes from selling, was it rum or tequila? I don't know. What percentage comes from that? What percentage of Apple comes from, Apple's income comes from interest, etc., etc. So that's the second calculation to look at. Is that clear up to there, you guys? That's number two. Number three has to do with what we refer to as nahy anil munkar, or it has to do with when we as Muslims see something wrong, doing our best to change that wrong. So this is, as Muslims, we want to try to be a positive influence on society around us and change any evil that we see around us. So as Muslims, if we're investing in a large stock company and there's enough of us, yes, we can make a difference. So we can make a difference. Right? There's roughly 10 million Muslims in America. If we coordinated our behavior more, we could make a significant impact on the country. So the third requirement means that if we invest in a company, for example, Tesla has a certain amount of money in alcohol, then we as stockholders, keep in mind, what does a stockholder mean? You own a share in the company. Oh yes, okay, it might be 1 in a million, but yes, you still own a share in the company. And yes, if enough people stand up and say, Tesla, we are Muslims, we can't sell alcohol, please stop selling alcohol. So yes, hypothetically, if enough of us stand up and voice our disapproval, inshallah, it will make a difference someday. Maybe not now, but maybe in the future. Right? So the third requirement, voice your disapproval in any way you can to the company in that because for their haram income or for their income in unlawful that comes from unlawful sources. Send them an email, right? There's an info account. Send them an email. If you can, write a letter. And if you have enough shares, stand up in the board meeting. My name's Abdullah. I have 1 million shares in your company, and you need to listen to me. I want you to stop doing this. I want you to stop selling this. Inshallah. Inshallah, if we reach that level, inshallah. Hopefully, some of you guys will reach that level, inshallah. Okay, so this is the third requirement. Think about it, mashallah, 10 million Muslims. Really, if we put our dollars to work, we could really make a change. We could make a difference. Okay, so this is the third requirement. Fourth requirement has to do with purifying our wealth. And this is important because the stock market has, it's accepted fact, the money that's these companies are making, these stock companies are making, some of it is coming from unlawful sources. And then we are buying those stocks and we are selling those stocks. So yes, this will technically taint or impact our income as well. Or this will at least leave a negative impact on our income. So the Islamic teaching is as follows. Look at the percentage of haram income. And so it has to be less than 5%. Look at the percentage of haram income. And from our dividends or from our capital gains, give that percentage from the dividend or from the capital gains in share, in sadaqah. And this would be to purify our wealth. So let's say XYZ company, their haram income is 3%. Right? So below that 5%. But we know that 3% of their income is haram. So therefore, if I get a dividend of $100 from that company, then from the $100, give $3 in charity, give it to the poor. Or if I sell their stock and I make $100, again, give the $100, give $3 in charity. Is that clear? So the objective is to purify our wealth as much as we can, right? Making the most of the system and trying to purify our wealth. Okay, is that clear? Okay. Now, the fifth requirement requires you to have a little bit of a background on the income statement and how companies work. It's a little bit more complicated. So any company will have a ratio of liquid assets and illiquid assets. So what is liquid assets? What do liquid assets mean? Cash. The company just has cash. Or other stocks. Or accounts, whatever it is. Illiquid assets refer to buildings. Illiquid assets refer to machinery. Illiquid assets refer to, for example, stock or merchandise, etc. So especially the lesson we learned from the dot-com bubble bursting, many companies were just fake companies. There's nothing there. Right? There's no factory, there's no merchandise, there's no equipment, there's nothing. It's just a company in paper. So this requirement, the illiquid assets, right? The illiquid assets should be at least 33%. Let me just make sure that I read that correctly. Okay, let me be 100% sure. The illiquid assets of the company should be at least 33%. So at least 33% of the assets of the company have to be real, right? There has to be something, there has to be machinery, there has to be equipment, there has to be a factory, there has to be something. And really it's for your own protection as well, but this is an additional requirement. So you have to look at the asset section of the income statement, calculate the total assets, and look at the illiquid versus liquid. So these are the 5 requirements, right? So these are my 5 requirements. These are the AOC 5 requirements, and they're also the requirements listed by Mufti Usman. So is that clear, you guys? Yeah. Now, there might be a challenge in determining this, right? And calculating and figuring out if the stock is haram or halal. And there are different approaches that a person can use, right? You have a portfolio with 50 stocks. You're gonna have to do a lot of research, and you have to do a lot of calculations. So there are a few resources out there. In fact, there's an app for that. There's some apps out there as well. There's some screening organizations out there as well. And there are also some mutual funds out there as well. So as a brother's question was earlier, how do we determine the halal status of a mutual fund? So if a mutual fund, the answer is, if a mutual fund has 50 stocks in its portfolio, that means we need to individually look at all 50 stocks and look at the 5 criteria, look at each stock and determine if it's halal or haram. And I will say as a disclaimer, some of the apps use logarithms. And there's other organizations out there that have manual screening where a group of scholars look at each stock individually and give a fatwa on that stock. So there are different processes. Some are more thorough than others. And then you also have Islamic mutual funds as well. In principle, you do have a few Islamic mutual funds where, in theory, the fund manager is supposed to vet those stocks as well. So inshallah, I'm sitting in a masjid. I'm not going to promote XYZ mutual fund. I'm not going to promote XYZ app, and I'm not going to promote XYZ stocks. Right? That's beyond my scope, and that's also beyond the scope of this lecture as well. Because we're sitting in the masjid, I'm not comfortable promoting certain companies or promoting certain products. I don't want to sell you guys anything. I don't want to sell you guys anything. But at least the framework is there. The theory and the framework is there. Inshallah, in principle, any person can use this framework and do the research on a stock being halal. Okay. So any questions on stocks? Yes.
I'm trying to understand. So the liquid part of the 77%.
Yeah.
That's
so 66. So technically, but 6. Yeah. So
6%.
So
67%.
more, at least 1/3, 33.33% of the company's assets should be illiquid.
So the liquid, even if it's good, like cash and tangible, that's not good enough.
It has to be illiquid. So the company has to own something. Right? So the argument would be, if you're buying a company, 99% of their assets are liquid, then really you're just buying their liquid assets. Right? You're not owning it. Right? And in a way, you're buying money for money. What you're doing, you're buying money for money. So the argument is there should be something. If you're buying the company, you should be buying something that's tangible. So it's something that exists. It's not just money. Yes, but.
So the follow-up question. So if there is a new startup, usually they come up with some investments and liquid money. They don't have any manufacturing as yet. So how about that? So
that from a technical point of view, that criteria won't be met.
So specs will not be met with this.
Yeah. So but again, we'll have to look at the ratio. So there's going to be a startup right in the beginning. There's going to be a startup maybe 3-4 years in. So you'll have to look at the ratio. But then it's different. So keep in mind, investing is different, and working for a startup is different. And then also getting options from the startup is different. Right? So there's different categories. So even though investing might not be permissible, as long as the main business of the company is halal, you can still work for them. And if they give you stock options as a benefit or as wages, or they just give you stock options, technically it will be fine. Yeah.
So follow up. Usually, for example, if we gather together and we invest something, that is considered halal, right?
Yeah.
So if a new startup is a company, for example, electric vehicle,
yeah,
lots of those are coming to the business. So what they do, they cannot essentially start with a factory standard, right? So they will gather up some funding. So obviously the first
yes,
clauses apply and it's okay, but this one, the third or fourth clause that applies for the liquidation does not apply according to the plan.
Well, so it's a very good question. So the two look the same. So the brother asked a very good question. So his argument is, today if Imam Saad and I and some of the other brothers, we put together $100,000 each, and we're going to open up a company, right? And we're going to come up with the terms of the company, right? So even though they're in the beginning stages, there's no liquid assets versus illiquid assets. So why can't the same thing apply for startups? Right? So that's about this argument that with the startup, same thing happens to the startup. So there's a technical difference, and the technical difference is being a direct investor versus an indirect investor. Right? That's the best way to look at it. A direct investor, right? You're not confined by these 5. So these 5 requirements were catered and customized for the stock market. Because with the stock market, you're an indirect investor. You don't run the company. So as a stock market, when you buy one share, the LLC has its own board of directors. They have their own protocols. Whereas if you and I invest in something, right, we're direct investors. So that's one way to look at it. But still, we're at an excellent point. Yeah, it is an excellent point. There's a technical difference. Yeah. So you could say the requirements for investing in the stock market are different because it's indirect investment. We don't call the shots about investing in interest or haram aspects. Whereas if you and I open up our own business, we can do whatever we want. Right? And there's more leeway, but then we're bound by Islamic law right from the beginning. So there's a technical difference. So any more questions on the stock market?
So SPACs company also falls in this criteria. The SPAC company, the special acquisition also fall in this criteria.
So exactly, so how will they work with this? How is the SPAC company different from the startup?
SPAC will raise an investment and then we look for acquisition.
Yeah.
Which acquisition will be there, like Lucid Motors.
Yeah.
So they were,
So
and then they merge with this.
okay, got it. So if you can just, so how would a SPAC company be different from VR, virtual, not VR, sorry, venture capital, VC?
They'll be saying.
Yeah, venture capital is fine. In fact, one person made a statement, so this is something for us to think about. So, although it's a different type of investment, but one Muslim made the argument, the purest and the most halal version of investing is VCs, venture capitals, but it's the highest risk, it's highest level risk. So, in Islam, one of the objectives is that individuals share the risk. And so this is, in a way, this is equal, this is fair, this is part of equity. So let me just give an example. Myself and Imam Saad, we want to invest in something. So I tell Imam Saad, because I'm the guest and I get to call the shots, you have to give me a fixed return of 6%. No matter what happens, I want my 6% or I'm coming after you, Imam Saad. Imam Saad goes, the remaining amount, I have to bear all the losses. I have to make sure you get your 5%. And I have to make sure I have to give you your 5% no matter what happens to me. I might lose $1 million, but I have to give you your 5%. How is this fair? So in a way, with the banks and our current financial system, that's what happens. Right? People who are getting the fixed return, right? They assume no risk. Whereas in terms of Islam, individuals should share this. So if Imam Saad and I come up with the agreement that we will share the profits 50-50, that means I don't get my fixed 5%. If there's losses, I share 50% of losses. So there's a lot more risk, but yes, the returns will be higher as well. And it's a much more equitable arrangement as well. So with VCs, they're investing their money and they're going to share the profits, but they're also going to share the losses.
Yeah, the SPACs don't invest the money. They look for the acquisition target. So they will say, this is a new company and I can buy, we have this much cash in hand. We can go and buy this company. Or we can merge with this company and give a capital to this. That's it.
That seems to be fine, brother. So I haven't done proper research on it, but if they're just buying companies and selling companies and then making money from that, then as long as the company itself is that they're buying is halal, it should be fine. Yeah. We'll yes.
What about forex trading?
Yeah, forex trading, yeah.
And futures and options.
Yeah. So excellent question. So you guys, the next question when it comes to the stock market is futures, short sales, and options. So just Thursday before I came here, I was sitting and going through my taxes. One of the main questions: do you have any money in options, or do you have money in futures? So looking at it from an Islamic perspective, there is a difference between buying a stock today, owning that stock today, versus the nature of the transaction for futures. So in summary, I'll give you the summarizing answer. According to the AOFI standards, and also according to Mufti Usmani, all futures transactions are impermissible. This is a fatwa they've given. This is not the fatwa I'm giving, this is the fatwa they've given. And again, the argument is there's a level of speculation involved. And there's also a level of uncertainty involved as well. And in a way, it does strongly resemble gambling as well. Right? So the difference is, what's the difference of gambling? I stand to make or lose money based on a future event. So, as I come from San Francisco, come from California, I make a bet with Imam Saad. If the Golden State Warriors win the NBA championship, right, you're going to give me $100. Right? So this is an example of a bet. Inshallah, they will. Yeah. But okay. But if I put money on it, I say, you put in $100, I put in $100. That's a bet. So it's based on a future event. Now, what's the structure of many of these futures transactions? If the price goes up to XYZ, then I reserve the right to buy it at a certain date. And also the issue is the transactions in the future, right? So will I live till then? Will that company be around till then? Right? Yes, most likely it'll be around, but still there's level of uncertainty, right? So on this basis, it's also there to protect you. I just met a friend, a 25-year-old kid. the guy lost like $400,000 putting all his money in short sale of Amazon the day the earnings came out. You guys, anyone who's in the field knows that was a recipe for disaster. He lost a few $100,000 on that one transaction. Right? Short selling Amazon. So again, we would recommend stick to the basics, buy the stock, own the stock. Right? These futures transactions, they're very risky, and Islam does not allow them for your own protection. It's really meant to protect us. Yes, sir.
So what is the minimum time we can keep the stock?
Yeah. So very good question, brother. And this will tie into day trade. This is a direct application of day trade. So in Islam, as long as you take possession of the stock and you're considered owner of the stock, you can sell it. Now T plus 72, there's a whole thing how exactly how it works. So that's why I'm wording it very carefully. As long as you are considered the legal owner of the stock and you have it in your possession, you can sell it. So I'm purposely avoiding the question, but I'm leaving it at that. Yes, sir.
That's a little bit confusing. I would like to because in day trading, you sell it within a few minutes sometimes, but later.
Yeah. So as long as you're the owner of it, and you're legally become the owner of it, and you have possession of it, it's in your bank account. You can sell it.
So possession is different from ownership, I would say, because you are buying something, so you become the owner of it, because you can sell it whenever you want. But the ownership comes with some papers or some legal transaction that will happen the night and the second day.
Yeah, so that's where T plus 72. So that's why I mentioned the T plus 72. So the issue is the issue is the Prophet Muhammad said in a hadith, Naha an bay'i ma lam yakul. So the Prophet Muhammad has said, you're not allowed to sell something without taking possession. And so this is where the issue comes in. So that's why you use the word possession. And so that's where the issue comes in. But it looks like there's a difference between being able to buy and sell and transact that thing versus when it becomes finalized officially and recorded officially after 72 hours by the SEC. So this is where there's a difference between becoming the formal owner versus becoming the temporary owner, so for the lack of a better word, or having temporary possession or having finalized official possession. I guess that's the issue.
Like it's a documentation that takes time for example, processing
for the paperwork
and mailing and all that.
Yeah.
So, but still you're an owner in that same.
Yeah. So again, that's why I'm wording it very carefully. As long as you are the legal owner and you have possession of it, and it's in your account, then you can sell it. At the same time, you guys, I do wish to say this as well. One is the halal haram aspect, right? Which transactions are halal haram? So I want to give this disclaimer as well. Another aspect is what is a wise transaction, or what is a smart investment strategy. So keep in mind these are two completely different things. I remember even recently, people come up to me and say, Sheikh, let me know if Bitcoin is halal, because I want to put $100,000 in Bitcoin. So I tell them, brother, look, my job as a mufti or my job as an imam, right? Yes, I will tell you what is halal haram, but it's not my job to tell you what is a good investment strategy and what's a wise investment decision. So Imam Saad comes up to me and says, Mufti Saab, I'm going on my own Nihari diet. I go, Imam Saad, what does that mean? Imam Saad goes, for breakfast Nihari, for brunch Nihari, for lunch Nihari, and for dinner Nihari. Mufti Saab, is this halal? So what answer will I give Mufti Saab, you guys? If the meat is halal, yeah, you can set up your own diet, your special diet, whatever you want. But might not be a smart idea. What happens if you eat nahari 5 times a day? Cholesterol, heart attack, etc., etc. The same way when it comes to investing. So today, what we're talking about the basic requirements for investing. Strategy is something else, right? I'm not qualified to teach you about strategy, but yes, there are courses out there. There's books out there, right? And there's something called long-term investment strategy. Day trade. right now it's 244. I buy 100,000 shares of XYZ. 5 minutes later, I want to sell those shares. Do I have any good idea or any strategy to know in 5 minutes the value is going to go up and down? Is there any form or process? Are there any indicators or reliable indicators that in 5 minutes the price is going to go up and down? There is. Yeah. Okay. In the long term, if I buy that stock and hold on to it for 5 years, are there some reliable indicators? Are there some predictions? Are there some graphs or models that I can use? Yes, there are. Right? There's some strategy. There's some long-term trends. There's some numbers that I can use. There's a strategy that's involved. So that's why, you guys, I highly recommend having a strategy and having a long-term strategy and knowing, for example, risk, managing risk is also termed as well. Because honestly, cryptocurrency is not good for investing in cryptocurrency is not good for your heart. Let me be completely honest with you. It's not good for your heart. You see the price, you see your stock dip $4,000 in a day. It's not going to be good for your health. You have to be tough. In fact, they refer to this as investment discipline. You have to be in for the long term. You have to be tough. You can't freak out in trends in the day. You can't freak out. So high risk investments are not for everyone, right? So you have, so for many of us, those more reliable investments, those more stable investments, what they refer to as blue chips, make more sense, right? So you guys come up with your own investment strategy, do some reading, and before you put in all your money, like have a game plan. Have a game plan, right? So whether or not day trading is halal or haram, that's a separate matter. Whether it's a smart idea to do or not, that's another matter as well. Whether options are halal or haram, whether they're a smart idea or not, that's another matter as well. Okay, so you guys, that was an introduction to the stock market and investments. I think we've covered almost everything. Any remaining questions, you guys, or remaining topics? Yeah.
One question, like we said, 5% of the company can be permissible, the money can be there. So a company like Walmart, they sell pork and all that. So how a person will be able to determine,
So again, we'll have to look at the balance sheet. We'll have to estimate. Yeah. So what percentage of Walmart's income comes from alcohol? What percentage comes from halal or haram meat? We'll have to estimate. And really, that's the challenge with all the supermarkets in this country.
So is Ethereum and Bitcoin, is it halal?
So I'm coming to that. So inshallah. So we'll cover stock market first. So next is crypto. So any more questions about? Yes.
Sorry, just to jump on that point regarding the primary business
Yes.
criteria. So when you do have a supermarket, essentially, even in their balance sheet, they're not going to tell you what exact items are. So
Interesting.
that would
Yes.
under the second category of the 5% being haram from the bank, something like that, right?
No, so we would have to try to do our best to look at their total income, the total haram income. Yeah. So I remember Mufti Usmani's family when they're doing research on individual stocks, they actually contact the company and ask questions. And then you guys, and this is where the limitations. So I want to put this out. There are apps out there. There are a number of apps, Zoya and others, that claim to give the calculation. But the question is, it's an algorithm. They're just punching in numbers and they're having things calculated. And then how thorough can they be when they're just when there's no follow-up? Right? It's all just calculations. And then is there a person checking manually and verifying these things? So I think with a number of issues, there's need sometimes to get more data or follow up with the company. Okay.
Regarding mutual stocks, mutual funds, sometimes they change, right?
That's another challenge as well. Yes. So as you know, as Mossad pointed out, with the mutual fund, let's say we're interested in investing in a mutual fund, and either ourselves or someone else goes through the entire portfolio and bets it out. Now, with the mutual funds, they're going to change their holdings. In 3 months, it's going to change. So that's why, especially with the mutual funds, you need a reliable Sharia advisor, someone who's overseeing the fund to make sure that they're following all these criteria, and to make sure that they are vetting the funds, right? Vetting the stocks. And there are a few Islamic mutual funds out there. One of them was in trouble with SEC recently. And you guys can look that up. Inshallah. And again, this is just my complaint, or you could say a complaint from the heart. I wish we as Muslims were more professional, more organized, and more thorough in how we do business. It sets a bad example. When one of the 3 Islamic mutual funds in this country is in trouble with the SEC, it reflects poorly on the rest of us. It reflects poorly on us as a Muslim community. It reflects poorly on us and how we do Muslim business. Right? We should be setting the examples. We should be setting the highest standards. But again, this is my complaint from my heart. Inshallah. Okay. Any more questions about the stock market? Okay. So in brief, cryptocurrency. So I did an hour and 15-minute presentation on cryptocurrency. So I'm not going to be able to cover everything today. So when it comes to cryptocurrencies, there's about 1,500 cryptocurrencies. And there's 2 categories. There's what we refer to as the OG, the original, which is Bitcoin, and then the altcoins. So altcoins refer to all the other currencies besides Bitcoin. And because there's about 1,500, it's difficult to give one ruling for every single cryptocurrency. To be fair, you guys, there are altcoins out there which are just Ponzi schemes. They're fake. There are also altcoins out there which are based on interest. Right? So you have to tread carefully. So that you will have some haram cryptocurrencies and some halal cryptocurrencies as well. Now, the most popular cryptocurrency is Bitcoin, and almost all the research that's out there is also on Bitcoin. And there are further discussions. The research paper that I like to quote, and I like to base my own opinion on. You can type this in Google. Faraz bin Adam, Amana Consultancy, Bitcoin research paper. It should show up. Or just type in Faraz bin Adam, Bitcoin. That should be enough. So this Mufti from England, he's been researching Bitcoin since the year 2017, 2018. He spent 2 years researching Bitcoin. And for his thesis paper, for his master's thesis paper, he wrote a 50-page research paper on Bitcoin. To be fair, there are other fatwas out there. In many Muslim countries, they have banned Bitcoin. Pakistan has banned Bitcoin. India has banned Bitcoin. Even Indonesia has banned Bitcoin. So, of course, depending on the country you live in, and whatever the Mufti say in that country, that will also impact the ruling as well. So, Mufti Faraz bin Adam, his conclusion of his 2 years of research and his 50-page research paper, he says, there are 2 elements of Bitcoin. One is investing in Bitcoin as an asset. And one is using Bitcoin as a currency, just as we use dollars. So he says these are 2 different aspects here. And he gives a fatwa on the asset portion. And to be fair, I went to my local mall. I saw a Bitcoin ATM. And I have money in Bitcoin as well, but no, I don't walk around with my soft wallet, you guys. And I have that in my that's my safe deposit box. Don't look after your Bitcoin coins, you guys. Don't be like those people looking for those passwords and digging for the passwords in large. So look after your Bitcoin. So what are these 2 different aspects, you guys? Most of us that invest in Bitcoin, we invest in it as an asset. We're going to hold on to it. We're not going to use it to buy and sell things. We're not going to walk into the restaurant and pay our bill in Bitcoin. That's most of us will not do that. So inshallah, we don't have to worry about that. Most of us are investing as an asset. Yes, there are some applications. Maybe as Muslims, maybe even in 5 or 10 years, the discussion will come up. Can we use Bitcoin to pay our zakat in Bitcoin? Can we use Bitcoin to donate to the masjid? Can we use Bitcoin to pay our imam's salary? Imam Saad? What do you know? So these are questions that will come up inshallah in the future. Mufti Faraz bin Adam, he does not give a ruling on Bitcoin as a currency. And also, you guys, Bitcoin being a valid currency depends on the government, depends on the country we live in, and depends on our government. Because let's all move to El Salvador. I think El Salvador recognizes Bitcoin as an official currency. I think even some other Central American countries are considering it. It was recently in the news. I think Mexico is also considering it. So the summary is, Mufti Firas bin Adam says, Bitcoin is a valid investment and asset in Islamic law. If a Muslim wishes to purchase it as an asset and to hold on to it and then sell it later, it is permissible. Right? So this is Mufti Firas bin Adam's research. At the same time, you guys, Bitcoin has a high level of risk and a high level of volatility. It's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. Recently, Bitcoin went down from 50,000 to 30,000. Now it's closer to 40,000. It's highly volatile. Right? So keep in mind, it's not an investment for everyone. It's a high level of risk. And there's also a strategy known as diversification. And so anyone that wants to invest their money, diversify, balance things. Right? Maybe you have 10% of your investments in cryptocurrency, 20% in gold, 50% stocks, 20% real estate, so something like that. And so have a balanced portfolio, diversify. So literally all your eggs aren't in one basket. But technically, this is a discussion on Bitcoin. Now, what about the remaining cryptocurrencies? I've also seen a detailed fatwa on Ethereum. There's a detailed fatwa on Ethereum. Ethereum, you could say, is the second most reliable cryptocurrency and second most popular one as well.
Okay, so for Bitcoin, the liquidation versus illiquidation doesn't apply.
It's a different category. Yeah. So the requirements of the stock market won't apply here.
It doesn't have any backing of any assets. Or anything.
It doesn't, but it's a digital asset. So it's a different category altogether. Yeah. So the criteria for stocks is different because you're purchasing a share in a company, right? So it's a little bit different. So you're investing in a real company, right? You're purchasing a share.
But the problem's still there for liquidation.
But it's a different. So the difference is the better parallel to Bitcoin is a digital asset. So for example, digital asset, I just purchased an app on my phone for $5. Right? I purchased something, but it's not a tangible thing. Yes, I purchased the right to download an app on my phone. Right? Is downloading an app on my phone is a halal or haram? Right? So it's a different category. So it's what we refer to as digital assets. For example, buying the mineral rights or buying a license for that. A license to open up a store, etc. So sometimes we're paying for these digital assets. They fall in a different category. In fact, in terms of fiqh, Mufti Ismail has written a book. It's entitled Bay'ul Huquq al-Mujarrada, buying assets, buying rights. Buying rights. And in this context, you're buying a digital asset. Yes, but the point you've made, scholars have objected to Bitcoin. And not all scholars say Bitcoin is small. Right? So my job is not to say that this fatwa is the only fatwa in the world. There are many other muftis that disagree with Bitcoin. And they have their reasoning and they have their arguments as well. But you could say the closest parallel to Bitcoin, so I give this parallel. The closest parallel to Bitcoin is domain names. Right? All these fatwa sites that run, where do they get the domain name from? Right? All these top muftis in the world, all these fatwa sites, they all have a website. To get a website, you have to get a domain. To get a domain, you have to, or web hosting services. Any website on the internet, you have to pay for a web hosting service. That's not a tangible asset. What are you paying for?
Service.
You're paying for, but again, there's nothing tangible. You're buying something.
But something that is a service, so you get benefit.
So if you buy memory for your phone, what are you paying for?
For the memory, the benefit you gain.
So Bitcoin is also a digital asset. You're paying for something. People are willing to pay $50,000 for it. It's worth something.
You cannot buy something from it.
You can. Well, there's ATMs. You can buy what you can use your Bitcoin. Although the discussion on Bitcoin as a currency is different, But right now, you walk in San Francisco, there's a few hundred stores that recognize Bitcoin. You can go and buy and sell. Supermarkets are recognizing Bitcoin. I don't know about the DMV area, but yeah, many stores already are recognizing Bitcoin.
Might be connected, like the currency aspect and the investment. If they're connected, then it makes it kind of good.
True, but so as of now, what Mr. Faraz bin Adam says, more research is needed on whether or not Muslims should use Bitcoin as a currency. That's what he says. But as an asset, his argument is, as an asset, it's a digital asset. And there are the other parallels to it as well. And plus, at the end of the day, brother, look, my job is not to convince anyone. Right? If you're not comfortable with the level of risk in Bitcoin, stay away. If you're not convinced on the halal status of Bitcoin, stay away as well. So ask your heart before you want to invest in these things. If you're not comfortable with them, don't invest. So even with the stock market, if you're not comfortable, in fact, a number of strict muftis, they say you shouldn't be investing any money in the stock market at all. Right? That's their level of taqwa. That's also the fatwa they give as well. Right? So it's a matter of your level of comfort with these investments. Okay. And any more questions on cryptocurrency, you guys?
So the Bitcoin, when they put it on some company, they are doing the staking, and when they use the Bitcoin for the staking, is that halal?
So generally they're using ETC. They're using Ethereum. So there's more detail that's needed. Right? So there's I would rather not discuss it right now because it's a little complicated. But if you type in Sheikh Joe Bradford and type in staking, STAKING, there's 3 different scenarios here. It's a little bit complicated. That's okay. It's a little bit complicated. I don't want to confuse anyone. But there is an answer. There's an answer, and it will require a little bit of explanation. So there's some scenarios that resemble interest, and there's some permissible scenarios as well. So staking is a little bit more complicated than the basic discussion on Bitcoin.
What about mining?
So mining is fine. Yeah. So mining, what you're doing, you're providing a service. You're providing your electricity. You're using your computer, and you're getting something in return. Yeah, mining is permissible. And it'll go back to the cryptocurrency. Yeah. If the cryptocurrency is halal, then receiving money in that cryptocurrency is also.
Has Mufti Kismani has made any comments on?
Yeah. So very interesting. There is no official fatwa from Darul Karachi on Bitcoin. Yes, a few people have quoted Mufti Kismani, his initial observations. So I've asked my student graduated from Darul Karachi last year. So I asked him all the people. Sorry, 1 second. So it looks like there are a few opinions attributed to Mufti Kismani. But it looks like these are his initial observations. They're not a final fatwa. Darul Karachi's official stamp is not on.
What are those?
So Mufti Kismani does object to Bitcoin based on the speculation aspect. That it's highly speculative. So he has some concerns about it. Yeah, to be fair. So and it's some people have translated it and circulated it on the internet. Right, so they are available. But asking his students have clarified. He never meant this as a final fatwa. What he shared was meant to be kind of discussionary for discussion purposes. Right? Initial observation. Yes.
So that means that IOV hasn't made any
No.
initial statements.
So it looks like because cryptocurrency is new. So what AOV does, they publish their standards, like 500 pages, 600 pages, detailed standards. It looks like cryptocurrency is so new, they don't have any standards. So it'll be interesting to see, inshallah, in the next few years, what AOV says about cryptocurrencies and then NFTs. So the AOV is still a little bit behind, but hopefully whatever research they come up with, inshallah, will help us, inshallah. So also, you guys, so what I'll leave, NFTs and metaverse are a separate topic altogether. We can spend another hour talking about it. What I'll do is I'll give follow-up briefing, further briefing. So for NFTs, unfortunately, not a lot of research has been done. If you look online, there's almost no fatwa or no research. Again, type in Faraz bin Adam, or just type in NFT fatwa. Number 1 on Google is Mufti Faraz bin Adam's 20-page research paper on NFTs. And the summary is, it depends on the specific type of NFT. Is there a animate object, a picture involved? Is there a haram thing involved? So he gives some criteria, guidelines to look up for NFTs. So just type in NFT fatwa. Mufti Faraz bin Adam's research paper should show up. And likewise, he also has a research paper on the metaverse. So this is really groundbreaking research, maybe the first fatwa or research paper on the metaverse that I've seen. Mufti Faraz bin Adam, he has a research paper he wrote last March, 1 year ago. So that's a summary, you guys. Otherwise, we can we don't have the time to go into more detail. But inshallah, that should be sufficient.
Thank you.
Okay. So any more questions, you guys? And now keep in mind, you guys, there's maybe we'll close on this. There are multiple forms of investment, right? So stock market is not the only place to invest. There are multiple forms of investment. And some forms of investment are more private. Some forms of investment are more localized. For example, real estate. Right? Real estate, we've seen real estate prices. In fact, there's an individual in New York who we're working with. He's trying to set up a real estate investment fund. A real estate investment fund. You guys? And this argument that many people have made, brother brought up the whole discussion on tangible. When you buy Bitcoin, what really are you buying? Yes, it is a right, but it's not something that's tangible. It's not something that's value added. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really give back to society. Right? It's not something that has what we call real value. It's something that's tangible. Now, you buy a building, right? For example, we know the Washington, D.C. area, right? It's the government's based out of there. People are always going to be coming there, trying to set up their businesses, et cetera, We know real estate in DC will have real value, and the value is going to appreciate over time. Right? The real estate is limited. People are going to try to move there. So I'm giving you an example that this is something tangible we can see. We have more trust in the value appreciating, and something that we can touch and feel. Likewise, gold. And look at the price of gold compared to dollars, or look at the value of gold compared to any currency for the last 1,400 years. Yes, temporarily it does change, but generally, look at the rate of gold and the value of inflation. Right? Generally, gold does adjust. The price of gold generally does factor in the cost of inflation, generally, in the long term. So my point is, you guys, diversification, there are multiple options for investing out there. Buying gold. Right? Buying gold, investing in real estate overseas, investing in the stock market, investing VC, finding a person locally that wants to open a business, maybe as a silent partner. Maybe as a silent partner, share with the profits. You don't have to do as much of the work, but there are other options. Yes, cryptocurrencies are also out there. Yes, NFTs are also out there, but these are different options. Some have more risk, some have less risk, some have value added. They're based on something that has real value. Some of them are based on kind of arbitrary value, and so on. So yes, ma'am.
This thing in gold, does it have to be physical gold, or can we do the paper gold?
But there's some fifth issues with buying gold. So this is so in terms of Bayu Surf and Ahkam Riba. So there are some technical aspects. I would recommend buying real gold. Yeah, I would recommend buying real gold. So that way you own the physical.
I have one question. This is related to 401 related 401 specifically.
401k. Yes.
401k.
Yes, ma'am.
So more specific is 401k loan. So when you take a 401 loan, it happens you have to pay interest, and the interest goes back to your account again. That's it works. So what is the Sharia rule?
It's permissible money. So it's not real interest. So many a time, what the Western financial system refers to as interest is not necessarily interest in Islamic law. Right? So interest would mean I have a loan from someone else. Right? But I lend you $100, and I say when you pay me back, you have to pay me back 105. That's called interest. If I borrow money from myself, I pay myself back interest. I get the interest. It's not called interest. Right? So they're using the word interest, but in Islamic law, it's not really called interest. Right? It's permissible. Okay. Any more questions, inshallah? Okay. So, inshallah, the goal here, that, yes, but
Buying property with the loan, how that works because in this country, if you buy the house paid in cash full, the IRS is gonna be on top of you. How did you get all this money and all that? So they suggest at least you buy something with the loan.
so, brother, if you recall, during the last lecture program, we talked about home financing. So there are some home finance companies, and they don't have restrictions on commercial property. So I believe some of them offer commercial property and investment property. So if anyone wants right now, as long as you have the financial means and you have the ability to pay back, you might already own your own home and it's fully paid off. If you want to buy an investment property, you can use some of these home financing options for investment property. So that is an option. I have friends who have investment properties, have 2 or 3 investment properties that they bought through some of these Islamic home financing companies. Okay. Any more questions, inshallah? Okay. So inshallah, the objective today was at least to do an overview from the Islamic perspective, and also Islamic investing 101, right? Having some Islamic perspective. You guys can see that there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. 1 hour is really not enough. So inshallah, I hope inshallah this will be a catalyst and a platform, inshallah, for all of us to learn more. I can say that after the first lecture I gave on cryptocurrency, after doing 10 hours of research, 12 hours of reading, I myself got interested, then I want to invest in it. Right? So inshallah, hopefully this will be a means of motivation, and inshallah will encourage us to invest our money in a lawful way, and inshallah think about the future, and inshallah look for good halal investments, inshallah. And inshallah, and make ourselves financially independent. So I'll end with the dua of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that we make. Allah makfini bi halalika an haramik wa aghrina bi fadlika an. So we say, oh Allah, make the halal sufficient for me, so that I don't have to go to haram. We know the challenge is there. It's so easy for a person to put money into the bank account and make interest from it, right? In fact, many people argue you Muslims are stupid for not putting your money into these into these savings account and getting this free money. It's free money for you to take, right? So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from the haram and make halal sufficient for us. And the last thing we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us all financially independent, and that we only need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't have to beg from anyone. We're not in need of anyone. We're not in muhtaj of anyone. That we become financially independent. We don't need to go to anyone else. Wa akhir da'wana an alhamdulillah bil alamin. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Jazakallah khair.